Hello. The reading for December 14 is titled Roots and a Shoot. And we're going to begin by reading from the Bible, Isaiah chapter 11, verses 1 to 2. And it says, "Like a branch that sprouts from a stump, someone from David's family will someday be king. The Spirit of the Lord will be with him and will give him understanding, wisdom, and insight. He will be powerful, and he will know and honor the Lord." The people of God continued to disobey him by worshiping idols. During this time, God spoke to his people through men called prophets. God gave the prophet a message, and the prophet gave that message to the people. Many of the prophets warned Israel about the judgment God would bring if they did not stop worshiping idols. The prophets urged God's sinful people to come back to him before it was too late. A man named Isaiah was one of God's prophets. He warned that God was going to use foreign nations to punish his people for continually disobeying him. Israel and Judah would be attacked by their enemies. Some of God's people would be carried away from the land to be slaves in foreign nations, and others would die. The prophets spoke messages that were sad and hard to hear. They reminded the people that God must punish sin because he is holy and good. But the prophets also spoke messages of hope, reminding God's people that because he is merciful and faithful, he would keep the promises he made to their ancestors. God's punishment for human evil would be kind of like an axe, cutting down a forest of trees. Much would be lost, but not everything. God gave Isaiah a message of hope. The stump of one family tree in Judah would sprout a shoot of new life and grow again. The name of King David's father was Jesse. God promised that a branch of new life was going to shoot up from the stump of Jesse. Isaiah wasn't talking about an actual stump or an actual branch. He was using these things as word pictures to help God's people understand that God would keep his promise, the promise that he made to David. A king coming from David's family roots would sit on the throne forever. The final king to sit on David's throne has God's Spirit on him. He has loved and obeyed God perfectly. One day he will bring total peace on earth, making all things right and good again. With this king in charge, there will be no more fighting, no more tears, no more sin, no more death. People from every nation in the world will finally see God's glory and be brought together to dwell with him in true rest from their enemies. This story tonight, it reminds us that God used foreign nations to punish his disobedient people, but he promised that a perfect king from David's family was coming to make all things right and to sit on the throne forever. And as we enter and are celebrating this Christmas season, let us reflect on the truth that Jesus Christ is the true king who came from Jesse and David's family.